Jinha stood at the back of her high school class as they toured the Galactic Heritage Museum. While her classmates chatted and laughed, Jin's eyes darted around the massive hall filled with treasures from across the stars. A tall girl with messy, black hair and glasses that kept sliding down her nose, Jin fidgeted constantly, her fingers tapping against her leg. "Keep up, everyone," called Ms. Park, their science teacher. "We have a schedule to maintain." Jin sighed. Schedules were boring. Patterns were interesting. The class moved through exhibits showcasing alien art and technology. Jin had read about most of these artifacts online already, but then they entered the Unsolved Mysteries wing and something caught her eye. In the EIC, center of a circular room, floating in a special containment field was a cube about the size of a basketball. Its surface shifted with colors and symbols that seemed to dance and rearrange themselves every few seconds. "This is the Vexillium Cube," explained the museum guide, a tall, blue-skinned alien named Lori. "Found in the ruins of the Vexillian civilization that vanished 50,000 years ago. The cube has resisted all attempts to decode its purpose or meaning." Jin stepped closer, her eyes widening. The cube's surface swirled with golden symbols against a deep blue background. "Scientists from 17 different planets have studied it," Lori continued. "The leading theory is that it's some kind of data storage device, but no one has been able to unlock its secrets." While the other students nodded politely and began drifting toward the exit, Jin remained frozen in place. The longer she stared at the cube, the more certain patterns began to emerge. "Jin, we're moving on," Ms. Park called. "Just a minute," Jin muttered, stepping closer to the containment field. There was something familiar about the way the symbols moved. They weren't random. They followed rules like a complex game. The cube's surface changed, but certain elements repeated at specific intervals. "Jin, now please." Ms. Park's voice sounded distant. Jin pulled out her phone and started taking pictures, trying to capture the sequences. Her heart raced. This wasn't just a random puzzle. The cube was communicating something through mathematics, a language universal to all intelligent species. "Miss, you need to rejoin your group," a security guard said, approaching Jin. "But look," Jin said, pointing excitedly. "See how these symbols here match the Fibonacci sequence? And these patterns over here, they're moving in prime number intervals." The guard looked uncomfortable. "That's nice, but you need to stay with your class." "But nobody's seeing it," Jin protested, her voice rising. "The patterns are there. They're just hidden in multiple dimensions of time and space." Ms. Park returned, looking annoyed. "Jinha, you're holding up the entire class. We have 4 more exhibits to see before lunch." "Ms. Park, the cube is using mathematical language," Jin insisted. "Look how these symbols pulse in rhythm with these others. It's like they're having a conversation." Some of her classmates had returned and were staring at Jin. She heard someone whisper, "Weird as usual." Ms. Park sighed. "Jin, this artifact has been studied by the brightest minds in the galaxy for 2 centuries. I doubt you've solved it in 5 minutes." Jin felt her face flush. She knew how this looked. It wasn't the first time her ADHD brain had latched onto something everyone else dismissed. But this was different. The patterns were real. "I'll come back," Jin whispered to the cube as the security guard gently guided her toward the exit. Throughout the rest of the tour, Jin could hardly focus. Her mind kept returning to the cube, reconstructing the patterns she'd seen, connecting them to mathematical principles she'd studied. By the time the class boarded the hover bus back to school, Jin had filled 7 pages in her notebook with sketches and equations. That night, Jin couldn't sleep. She downloaded her photos of the cube and enhanced them, tracking how the symbols changed over time. Around 3 a.m., she gasped when she realized the cube's patterns matched certain musical harmonics, frequencies that human ears found particularly pleasing. "What if that's it?" she whispered to herself in the darkness of her bedroom. "What if the Vexillians designed this puzzle for species with human-like perception?" Jin knew one thing for certain. She needed to see that cube again. And next time, she would need more than just a few minutes. The Vexillium cube had spoken to her, and she was determined to understand what it was trying to say. Jinha's bedroom had transformed. Where posters of pop stars once hung, the walls were now covered with printouts of cube patterns and mathematical formulas. Her desk disappeared beneath stacks of books about the Vexillians and their lost civilization. 3 screens displayed different simulations of the cube, each running complex algorithms Jin had written herself. "Jin, dinner's ready." Her mother knocked softly before opening the door. She frowned at the mess. "Have you been in here all day again?" Jin barely looked up from her tablet. "I'll eat later. I'm close to something important." Mrs. Ha sighed and set down a plate. "Your math teacher called. You haven't turned in homework for 2 weeks. Math class is teaching things I learned years ago." Jin mumbled, her eyes still fixed on the screen. "This is real math. This matters." After her mother left, Jin returned to her work. She had scraped together every public research paper about the Vexillium cube. Most scientists approached it as a technological puzzle, trying to find hidden buttons or voice commands. None had considered it might be designed to communicate through pure mathematics and sensory patterns. Jin played a sound file she had created based on the cube's pattern sequences. The strange melody made her skin tingle. There was something familiar about it, something that resonated with her human brain in a way she couldn't explain. At school the next day, Jin sat alone at lunch, sketching cube patterns instead of eating. Her former friends had stopped trying to include her weeks ago. They didn't understand her new obsession. "Jin, may I join you?" It was Mr. Lee, her music teacher. Jin shrugged and he sat down across from her. "I heard about your interest in the Vexillium cube. The science department is concerned about your grades." Jin looked up. "I don't have time for regular assignments. I'm working on something important." Mr. Lee nodded thoughtfully. "I understand passion, Jin, but balance is important too." Jin hesitated, then pulled out her tablet. "Listen to this." She played the sound sequence she had created. Mr. Lee's eyes widened. "That's fascinating. It's almost like..." "Like what?" Jin leaned forward eagerly. "The intervals between notes, they follow the same patterns as traditional Korean folk music, but also Western classical harmonics." He looked at her with new interest. "Where did this come from?" For the first time in weeks, Jin felt someone might actually understand. She explained her theory about the cube's patterns matching human sensory preferences. "The Vexillians were more advanced than humans in every way," she said. "But their research shows they perceived sound and light differently than we do. What if they created this message specifically for species with human-like senses?" Mr. Lee was quiet for a moment. "That's a remarkable theory. I need to test it," Jin said. "But I can't get access to the cube again." That night, Jin's parents confronted her after she missed dinner again. "This has gone too far," her father said. "Your grades are suffering. You barely sleep, you don't talk to your friends anymore." "You don't understand," Jin protested. "Nobody does. This isn't just some hobby. I think this cube was meant for humans to find." Her mother exchanged worried glances with her father. "Jin, we're concerned about you. This obsession isn't healthy." "It's not an obsession," Jin insisted, though part of her knew it was. "I just need more time." Later, alone in her room, Jin stared at her models of the cube. The Vexillians had been masters of physics, mathematics, and technology. They had explored dimensions humans could barely comprehend, yet they had vanished suddenly, leaving few traces beyond this mysterious cube. Jin played back the audio patterns again, watching as her simulation matched sound to the shifting symbols. Something clicked in her mind, a connection she hadn't seen before. "It's not just music," she whispered. "It's language. The cube is speaking." She worked through the night, mapping the patterns to phonetic sounds. By morning, she had translated a single phrase: "For those who hear the harmony." Jin's hands shook with excitement. She was right. The cube wasn't a puzzle the Vexillians couldn't solve. It was a message they had created specifically for species with human-like perception. But to prove her theory, she needed to interact with the real cube again. No simulation would be enough. Jin knew what she had to do. Somehow she needed to get back to that museum, alone and with enough time to work. The Vexillium cube was calling to her, and Jin Ha was determined to answer. Jin stood nervously in front of the Galactic Heritage Museum, clutching her tablet with all her research. After weeks of sending emails to scientists who studied the Vexillium Cube, only one had responded, Dr. Tae Kim, junior researcher at the museum. "You must be Jin," said a tall man with kind eyes approaching from the staff entrance. "I'm Dr. Kim." Jin nodded quickly. "Thank you for meeting me. I know my ideas sound strange." Dr. Kim smiled. "Strange ideas often lead to breakthroughs. Come in through the back, we don't have much time." They walked through dark, empty halls. The museum after hours felt magical and slightly scary. Finally, they reached the special room where the cube floated in its containment field. "You have 2 hours," Dr. Kim said, checking his watch. "Security thinks I'm running standard tests. If anyone asks, you're my assistant." Jin approached the cube with shaking hands. "Can I adjust the containment field? I need to introduce sound." Dr. Kim looked uncertain but nodded. "Just be careful. This artifact is priceless." Jin connected her tablet to the museum systems. She played the musical sequence she had created based on the cube's patterns. The cube's symbols began to pulse brighter in response. "Look," Jin gasped. "It's responding to the music." Dr. Kim's eyes widened. "That's unprecedented." Jin adjusted the tones, following her instincts. The cube's symbols reorganized themselves, forming new patterns. Some symbols glowed brighter than others. "I need to touch it," Jin said suddenly. "Absolutely not," Dr. Kim replied. "No one touches the artifacts." "Please," Jin begged. The Vexillians had touch-sensitive skin, different from humans. "I think the cube responds to multiple inputs at once: sound, light, and touch." Dr. Kim hesitated, then slowly lowered the containment field. 5 seconds only. Jin placed her hands on the cube while continuing to play the musical sequence. The moment her fingers touched the surface, the cube warmed and the symbols began to flow like water under her fingertips. "It's working!" Jin cried. The symbols rearranged themselves into clear patterns, numbers and coordinates appearing along the edges. Dr. Kim stared in amazement. "Those look like star coordinates." Jin nodded excitedly. "And these numbers, they're mathematical constants, but with tiny variations that match human perception thresholds." For the next hour, Jin worked with the cube, trying different combinations of sound, touch, and visual patterns. Each successful sequence unlocked new information. Dr. Kim recorded everything, his initial skepticism completely gone. "Jin, do you realize what you've done?" he asked finally. "In 2 hours, you've made more progress than all the scientists who studied this cube for centuries." Jin smiled shyly. "It's because they were looking at it the wrong way. The Vexillians designed this message specifically for beings with human-like senses." Dr. Kim shook his head in wonder. "I need to report this to the museum director." The next day, Jin received an urgent call. The museum director wanted to see her immediately. When she arrived, the director's office was full of important-looking people. "Jin, huh?" the director said formally. "These are representatives from the Galactic Science Council. They've heard about your work with the Vexillium Cube." A tall, elegant alien with silver skin stepped forward. "I am Council Member Lauren. News of your breakthrough has reached the highest scientific circles. We would like you to continue your work under official observation." Jin blinked in surprise. "You believe me?" "Dr. Kim's recordings are compelling," said Lauren. "We have been studying this artifact incorrectly. Your human perspective has provided insights none of us considered." Over the next week, Jin worked with the cube under the watchful eyes of scientists from across the galaxy. Each day brought new discoveries. The star coordinates formed a map. Mathematical formulas revealed physical principles beyond current science. One evening, as Jin played a complex melody while tracing patterns on the cube's surface, all the symbols suddenly aligned and began to glow with bright blue light. "What's happening?" asked one of the scientists. Jin's heart raced. I think we're close to solving it completely." The cube rose higher in its containment field, spinning faster as its glow intensified. The scientists backed away nervously, but Jin stepped closer, drawn by an instinct she couldn't explain. "Jin, be careful," Dr. Kim warned, but Jin knew she was on the verge of the biggest discovery in galactic history. The Vexillium Cube was about to reveal its final secret, and she was the only one who could unlock it. The Vexillium Cube spun faster, its blue light growing so bright that several scientists shielded their eyes. Jin stood transfixed, her hands still outstretched toward the ancient artifact. Something told her to keep playing the musical sequence she had discovered, a strange melody that seemed to resonate with both the cube and something deep inside her human brain. "Jin, step back," Dr. Kim called out, but his voice seemed distant. The cube suddenly stopped spinning and hovered perfectly still. Then it split open like a flower blooming, its 6 sides expanding outward to form a star-shaped pattern. From its center, a beam of light shot upward and expanded into a large holographic image. The scientists gasped collectively as a figure appeared, tall and elegant with 4 arms and a face that seemed both alien and somehow familiar. Its skin shimmered with patterns similar to those on the cube. "We are the Vexillians." The figure spoke in a melodic voice that everyone somehow understood. "If you are receiving this message, you have passed our test. You possess both the technological advancement to preserve our warning and the sensory perception to understand our message." Jin's heart pounded as she realized she was looking at a member of a species that had vanished 50,000 years ago. "My name is Ven, lead scientist of the Vexillian High Council," the hologram continued. "What I share now is the reason for our disappearance from this universe." The hologram changed to show swirling galaxies and mathematical equations. "Our civilization reached a point of tremendous technological advancement. We could manipulate matter, energy, and even dimensions themselves. But with this progress came a terrible discovery." The hologram's face looked grave. "We found a fundamental flaw in the fabric of reality, a cosmic vulnerability that our technologies were beginning to unintentionally exploit." Images appeared showing strange distortions in space. These rifts in reality began to appear near our most advanced research facilities. Our scientists determined that certain technological paths we had taken were weakening the boundaries between dimensions. If continued, these rifts would grow, eventually leading to universal collapse. The Galactic Council representatives murmured among themselves. One of them, a scientist with tentacles instead of arms, was frantically taking notes. "We faced an impossible choice," Ven continued. "Abandon millennia of progress or risk destroying not just our civilization but all reality. We chose a third option." The hologram showed a massive structure unlike anything Jin had ever seen. "We created a pocket dimension, a self-contained reality separate from this universe. Our entire species chose to exile ourselves there, taking our dangerous technologies with us. We still exist, but in a place where our advancements cannot harm the main universe." Jin felt tears forming in her eyes. An entire civilization had sacrificed their place in the universe to save everyone else. "The cube you have unlocked was left as both a warning and a test," Ven explained. "Only a species with the right balance of technological advancement and sensory perception could decode our message. Your success indicates you may one day face the same dangers we did." The hologram displayed a series of technical diagrams. These showed technological paths that must be avoided, particularly the manipulation of quantum resonance fields and dimensional boundary particles. The equations reveal why these technologies create instability in universal constants. Dr. Kim was recording everything, his hands shaking with excitement and fear. "Finally," Ven said, "we have left you coordinates to a hidden outpost on the edge of your galaxy. There, we maintained a research station with safe alternatives to the dangerous technologies. The station contains information to guide your development away from the paths that led to our exile." The hologram zoomed in on a distant star system, highlighting a small moon orbiting a gas giant. "Choose wisely with the knowledge we provide. Perhaps someday, when you have mastered safe technological growth, a way may be found to communicate between our dimensions." Ven's image looked directly at Jin, almost as if the ancient alien could see her across 50,000 years. "To the one who solved our puzzle, you have done what none of us expected any species to accomplish so quickly. Your perception is a gift. Use it wisely." With these words, the hologram faded. The cube gently closed itself and settled back into its containment field, once again appearing as an enigmatic artifact with shifting patterns. The room remained silent for several long moments. Then everyone began talking at once. Council member Loren approached Jin, who stood stunned by what she had witnessed. "Jin Ha," the alien said solemnly, "you have just changed the course of galactic history. The Vexillian warning may have saved us all from eventual destruction." Jin nodded slowly, still processing the enormity of what had happened. A civilization had left a message across time, and somehow she had been the one to hear it. Jin stood nervously at the edge of the stage as the Galactic Council president adjusted the microphone. The Grand Hall of Interspecies Cooperation was filled with representatives from over 200 planets. 6 months ago, Jin had been just another high school student. Now she was the most famous human in the galaxy. "Today we honor Jin Ha," announced the president, a tall being with shimmering scales. Her unique perception unlocked the Vexillium cube and delivered a warning that may have saved all civilizations from disaster. The crowd erupted in applause. Jin's parents sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Next to them was Dr. Kim, who had become Jin's mentor and friend. As Jin stepped forward to accept the Galactic Medal of Discovery, she remembered the day everything changed. The expedition to the coordinates from the cube had discovered an intact Vexillian outpost on a distant moon. Inside was the largest archive of knowledge ever found, safe technological pathways and alternatives to the dangerous research that had forced the Vexillians to exile themselves. Jin Ha showed us that different species perceive reality in unique ways, continued the president. What one civilization misses, another may see clearly. Today, we announce the formation of the Multi-Species Perception Research Division, with Jin Ha as its honorary director. Jin had initially been overwhelmed by the attention. News stations across the galaxy wanted interviews. Scientists wanted to study her brain patterns. Leaders wanted to meet the teenager who had made the breakthrough that eluded the brightest minds for centuries. But the strangest change was how other species now viewed humans. Previously considered newcomers to the galactic community, humans were suddenly highly valued for their unique perceptual abilities. The human combination of mathematical thinking, music appreciation, and tactile sensitivity proved crucial to understanding the Vexillian message, explained a famous Dronin scientist in a popular science program. We are now studying human arts and culture to better understand these perceptual differences. Jin watched with amazement as alien tourists flooded Earth's museums and concert halls. Human music became the most popular entertainment across 17 star systems. Universities across the galaxy created special programs to study human mathematics and art. After the ceremony, Jin met with the newly formed research team. Scientists from 12 different species would work together, combining their different perceptual abilities to explore the Vexillian archive. "Jin, we've analyzed only 2% of the archive so far," said Dr. Nari, a brilliant physicist. "But we've already found safer alternatives to 3 dangerous technologies currently in development. And the musical notation system you created to decode the cube is now being used to understand other ancient artifacts," added Professor Loon, an alien specialist in acoustic archaeology. That evening, Jin stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Council headquarters looking out at the stars. Dr. Kim joined her. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "It's a lot for anyone to handle, especially someone so young." Jin smiled. "Sometimes I still can't believe it. I was just following patterns that made sense to me." "That's why it's called the Ha Discovery now," Dr. Kim said. "You saw connections no one else could see because of your human perception. You've given humanity a special place in the galactic community." Jin thought about her old life, the classes she struggled to focus in, the teachers who thought her mind wandered too much, the classmates who thought she was strange. Her ADHD brain, which had often been treated as a problem, had allowed her to see patterns others missed. "What happens next?" Jin asked. Dr. Kim pointed to the stars. The expedition to establish a permanent research base at the Vexillian outpost leaves next month. They want you to join them. Jin's eyes widened. Really? But what about school? Dr. Kim laughed. Jin, you're now teaching the teachers. But don't worry, you'll continue your education. It will just be a bit more interstellar. As they watched, a ship launch from the spaceport below, Jin felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. The universe was full of patterns waiting to be understood. Some could only be seen by human eyes, others only by alien perceptions. Together, they might avoid the fate that had forced the Vexillians to leave this reality. The Vexillium Cube had chosen her, not because she was special alone, but because she represented something uniquely human, a particular way of seeing the universe that complemented other species' perspectives. Together, they would build a safer path to the future,